Hi, I'm Sam from the Augmented Human Lab at the University of Auckland, New Zealand. I'm excited to present our project, KinVoices, at CSCW 2021. Imagine your Amazon Echo reminding you to go to the bank in the voice of your grandpa. Humans are relational and social beings. In fact, we tend to converse more with, easily relate to, and trust the people we are close to and familiar with, namely our friends and family, which we will collectively call kin. One of my first experiences and inspirations for this was back in Singapore when I visited a day center for people with dementia in a hospital. They had these audio boxes with lunch tables, and caregivers said that they would sometimes play back voice recordings from their family and friends, and sometimes even say a reminder to them. This helped them to reconnect, reorient, and make them more calm and positive. This made me think, that's an interesting idea, and can we use this for our daily lives? With voice user interfaces becoming ubiquitous and speech synthesis technology maturing, I believe we can. Today, it is possible to synthesize voices to resemble our friends and relatives and use them on voice interfaces. Taking this article and podcast, for example, everyone will be able to clone their voice in the future. In this work, we set to address two gaps in our knowledge: how the familiarity of KinVoices affect the kinds of personas and attitudes that we apply to VUIs using KinVoices. Secondly, what are the key considerations when designing such VUIs? We conducted 2 studies to answer these research questions. In the first study, we did a preliminary survey. And in this survey, we asked an open question. So if you had a virtual assistant that has the voice of a person close to you, a friend or family, what would you use it for? So we had 48 responses. We're giving just the main points. So the first point was that some people wanted to give a reminder that was directly related to the person whose voice was playing. So, for example, a birthday reminder or a social meeting. The second was reading out text or chat messages using their voices. The third thing was saying out motivational phrases. And lastly, reading out stories. And so this helped us to design our main study. The main study, we answered the first research question. We had 25 participants, so 13 pairs or dyads, and we had KinVoices and Google Assistant voices. So we had 2 voices, voice A and voice B. We counterbalanced this, and we gave participants sort of conversations to experience, phrases, and survey. And after that, we did an interview with them. Perceived co-presence, social presence, telepresence were higher in KinVoices compared to Google Assistant voices. And this kind of correlated with the interview findings that people felt more connected, more engaged, noticeable. KinVoices were seen as more persuasive, credible, and charismatic. That corresponds with interview findings of feeling attentive and wanting to listen in more. And lastly, we also see that KinVoices were perceived as more likable, intelligent, and safe compared to these Google Assistant voices. KinVoices were actually perceived as more eerie than Google Assistant voices. And we think that this feeling of eeriness could be due to the mismatch between the medium and the voices. So people don't expect to hear KinVoices coming from VUIs. And so this actually helps maybe to attract attention to the interface itself. In the second study, we did a technology probe and co-design. KinVoice was deployed in the Amazon Echo with an Alexa-based VUI. It allows you to set reminders and then receive synthesized voice reminders in KinVoices. We used open source voice cloning tool and deployed it as an API on a Google Cloud server. We let 4 users use KinVoice in 3 households over 2 weeks. I'll use pseudonames here to explain. The pairs we had were Mary and Belle, who were sisters living in different households. And we also have Alice and Derek, a couple living together. Here's a little demo.
Alexa, ask Family Voice to play the reminder.
This is for your reminder. At 2:55 visit my family.
In terms of opinions on the generated KinVoices and the Pro, few of them found that there were similarities between the generated voices and their actual KinVoices. And some of them appreciated the concept of the generating dynamic content. In terms of the ideas that were generated from the co-design activities, we had ideas about meal preparation together, interaction with pets, communication between themselves, and also the hope to support communication between themselves and their grandchildren or children. In terms of design guidelines, we advise to rethink our notions of voice realism and to try and find this balance between naturalness and non-naturalness. So if it's too real, we are prone to impersonation attacks, but if it's too unfamiliar, we don't see that positive benefits when it comes to hearing KinVoices. Another thing is that to use KinVoices for personalized tasks, we see that when we match the role and the content of the interactions for personalized tasks, it works better compared to having it for general tasks. And also, we have looked a bit about the customization that we can use for personalized tasks. Another thing, consider mixing the use of synthetic and real voices. So real voice recordings can be used because they are meaningful and you put the time and effort to record that. And synthetic voices, synthesized voices are good because they can generate dynamic content. And so we suggest considering using hybrid voice interfaces. And the last thing that we suggest is to build on the attributes of KinVoices. So we see the feelings of connection and safety and comfort are really good for helping us use them as virtual therapists, for virtual therapists, companions, and even confidants. We also can use them for notifications, given that this ability for KinVoices to draw attention and to be noticeable. If we combine this with the persuasiveness, the charismatic sort of attributes, right, we can use it for promoting healthy habits, such as going for an exercise. There are also potentials for shared use. The telepresence, co-presence, and social presence can help support intra-family communications and activities and help alleviate loneliness. In terms of the limitations in future works, the study design could be improved upon. People less familiar with technology could be left out from the study, and we could consider recruiting them in the future. Could explore other pairings and age groups, and we could consider a wider selection of conversation prompts and phrases. We found that participants had a few qualms with the accent, and we suggest using regional voice samples in the future. There's a trade-off between the usability and security. We find that the voice cloning is not as realistic as we hoped, but we do suggest that future works could look at finding this Goldilocks zone of naturalness and familiarity. And lastly, we could look at other kinds of familiar voices, such as people who you admire, and this could lead to potentially very helpful applications. So I'm very grateful to have this amazing team for this project, and we're looking forward to future collaborations. You can check out our paper for more details. Feel free to contact us. With that, I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you.